G'day guys, it's Nicheless, and we're back. Not really playing Fallout 76. Oh jeez, what happened then? Not really playing Fallout 6, but we're on episode 2 of The Dump. And you guys ready to dump on something?
I've been saving this dump up since yesterday.
Yeah, so today I'm joined by Lit and Flass again, and we're gonna dump on in the past week. So Microsoft closed down 4 of its gaming studios, right? Which I think is funny because we were talking about the whole gaming revolution in the last episode of the dump. They closed down 4 studios. Some of the studios that produced pretty average games, but some actually quite good. Like Hi-Fi Rush, I think it was one that was slated as probably their most decent release. But they also produced, what was it, Redfall?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. So you guys following what's going on there?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I can't say that I've done the most deep research on the subject, but to me, this is very indicative of Microsoft's business model. Like, this is the same sort of stuff that they've been doing with Windows 11 and Windows 10 when that came out, and it's exactly what we should expect from them, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think it's to be expected because a lot of things changed in the background of American industry, actually.
Yeah.
Because the FTC just passed that there's no such thing as what were the deals called? I've forgotten them again. I can't believe I've forgotten them right now.
Non-competition agreements?
Non-compete, that's it.
Yeah.
Non-compete.
Yeah.
Yeah, contracts, which basically locks people in to their positions and not being able to move over to jobs they probably want. And it makes them able to pay them because of the lock-in agreement. They basically don't have to pay people as much money as they probably deserve. And yeah, it was some dirty stuff.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lena Khan, the one heading that hearing and everything. She's one of the representatives of the FTC over in America.
Yeah.
But so much has happened. Actually, while I was flicking through trying to find you that video last night, Niche, I found a video from 9 months ago where the FTC actually tried to block Microsoft from making certain, I think they were merger deals. I think it was, and the FTC actually lost. So I guess the FTC went back to the drawing board and were like, "All right, we can't block individuals as well as we'd like. Let's just go the full umbrella." And so, therefore, non-compete clauses have been abolished in America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's good news, I guess.
Yeah, and it's I think it's the reason why a lot of companies in the recent days have been kind of in panic mode and dropping all these IPs.
Yeah.
Because I think I was saying this to you last night. Redfall came out a few years ago, and it was an abomination. And they lost millions of dollars, but they did nothing about it. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, nah, these projects failed. We can't do anything about it. We're dropping them." And it just seems convenient to me that they've happened to drop all this in the literally within weeks or days even of this FTC ruling.
It does sound a little bit status quo for the corporate world, where whenever something attempts to damage them, they tend to pass the buck onto someone else. So in this case, they just liquidated a whole bunch of their employees and released a whole bunch of IP to keep themselves in the green as a greater entity.
Yeah. And
So-
it sucks too, you know. Sorry, Nish. I just want to, before I forget, it sucks for certain IPs because a lot of these big companies will hold on to them and not let them see the light of day again because they're scared that somebody else will take up the IP and make something of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make something better of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a justifiable position when you're like a military defense contractor or something, but not when you're making video games.
Yeah,
Like, get off your high horse.
yeah.
Yeah. That being said, though, like I was looking at the numbers, right? And do you know what? Currently, right now, do you know what Microsoft is valued at?
Ooh, what was the last number I seen? It's in the billions. Is it tens of billions?
It's higher.
No.
Yep. So Microsoft is currently valued at $3 trillion.
3 trillion.
Yeah.
Holy
Trillion.
Christ.
Which is
Let's-
that's a powerful, like when what you were just saying, Flash, like they are arguably worth more than departments of defense.
Yeah, true that.
That is wild. Absolutely wild.
They have
That's-
more money than the GDP of a lot of countries.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, easily.
And they still haven't gone down the cool route and made, the Pepsi route and made themselves a navy.
The Pepsi Navy. Yeah, that is wild. And for a company that has a $3 trillion valuation, they've been pretty quiet on it all. What was it? A couple of news outlets. IGN's one of the biggest ones, but IGN asked for comment and they declined. But also, I think IGN's probably backed by Microsoft in some extent.
Yeah.
So we interviewed ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So Bill Gates is owner, right, of Microsoft.
Yeah.
Is he CEO as well?
I don't think he is. I don't know. He very well could be. No, he's not. It's Satya Nadella.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the higher ups and how close it is to Bill Gates and all that sort of
Well,
stuff.
Bill Gates is definitely like up there. But Sam Altman is another one that's up there as well. Yeah, there's a lot going on with Microsoft at the moment. I think that, particularly what you're talking about, the non-compete stuff, like if they, I guess tunnel hole all their IP, and then I guess cut out the companies that, or the game development studios working under, it was both under Bethesda and I think, what was the other one, ZeniMax? Or,
ZeniMax owns
Yeah, ZeniMax.
Bethesda, yeah.
Yeah, under them, the people that they're pretty much firing now are the same people that are going to make the next good games.
Dead set.
They're the ones that are going to actually change the way gaming's done, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Coincides with what we were talking about on the last dump, where if the conditions become too bad within the realms of AAA development studios, then they're going to stop being AAA development studios. It's going to be an army of little isolated cells of indie developers creating stuff worthy of the AAA title without the budget.
Yeah. And some of those games are doing better than AAA titles.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Redfall was a perfect example of that. That was supposed to be a AAA title, and that really just shit the bed. And you've got games like Lethal Company, which was made by like one fucking person. I think it sold like 64 million copies, and it was like a $22 game.
Yeah, that's wild, huh? Same
That
with
is-
Noida. Only
Yep.
3 dudes. They made millions.
I was going to bring up Noida. That's a great example.
Yeah.
Like, that's as indie as you get, but it's not a small or cheap game. It's just as deep and immersive as any other AAA title out there, and is deserving of that label, even if it won't get it.
Same with Undertale. Wasn't it made by one person or something? I'm pretty
Undertale.
sure.
I
Yeah,
think it was,
Undertale.
yeah.
Yeah. like effectively made by one person, and like it's one of the best. Like I personally haven't played it, but I've heard along the grapevine that it's one of the best stories ever told.
Yeah.
And this and in the way that it tells it is indicative of that, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's a hopefully this is a renaissance of sorts, because it's players deserve it, the developers who are passionate about games deserve it. Lots and lots of stuff that should be happening is actually going to have the opportunity now that FTC rule has passed.
Yeah.
I bet you there's heaps of developers out there who want to make a dream team of rubbing their hands together going, yeah, boy, we're going to make the sickest fucking games.
Yeah.
So many talents about to be looking for a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that they can stick their fucking middle finger up at the big corporation and go, yeah, fuck you. I'll go and take my skills elsewhere, and you ain't going to stop me from going to other places. Yeah.
Yeah. And rightfully so. So they should be able to.
Mm-mm.
But like one of the things in my research that I did find last night
Mhm.
and over the week, so have you guys seen the email that was sent out pretty much laying off the developers?
No.
Oh, that was really interesting. But there's a couple of little highlights in it. So I guess the head of Xbox Game Studios sent this one out. And so pretty much the opening para says, today I'm sharing changes that we're making to our Bethesda and ZeniMax teams. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high-impact titles and further investing in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds which you have nurtured over many decades.
Oh my
So-
god, let go your own wiener, would you?
So that's the opening paragraph, right?
Wow.
What do you guys think that means?
About what? Sorry?
So they're prioritizing high impact titles
Mm-hmm.
and further investing in Bethesda's portfolio.
Yeah, that immediately makes me think of the TV show that's just been
Yeah.
released, and it's been mega successful.
100%.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
That
so
was
we're talking about potentially reallocating pretty much their company's assets to support the development of probably a Fallout game.
something Fallout related.
Something Fallout related, 100%.
I don't know
Yeah.
whether it'll be a blessing or a curse if they tip the entire studio's dev powers into 76.
Yeah.
I
Because,
don't.
I mean, that's got to be worth a lot of money, right? They're taking money off of the players left, right, and centre in this game.
Oh
Yeah.
the-
Fallout 76 has its flaws. Like, it can't be story driven too much, because, like, we're in a world that's driven by multiple people. Not like the single player titles that are basically the chosen one. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Neo from the Matrix.
You're all special, so none of you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much the model that Fallout 76 follows. It's just, yeah. If there's a few projects out there that I'm a little bit worried about as a result, though, like
Yeah.
Fallout 4 New Vegas and Fallout Cascadia. I think that's
Yeah.
what it's called.
And they were community developed projects?
Yeah. Fallout 4 New Vegas is a perfect example. So
Yeah.
they didn't bust any of the copyright shit. They've redone all the textures. They've redone all the voices. They've
Oh.
redone pretty much everything possible. The only thing that they're using essentially is the engine.
Well, that's
Okay.
pretty cool.
So
Yeah.
it's a rebuild from the start of
Yeah.
Bethesda engine, so to speak.
Yeah. And like, I hope that they don't chuck a Nintendo and go, your game's doing better than our games. Shut down. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Give
'Cause
it or
they-
lose it.
Yeah.
Nintendo did that with a Pokemon game. Was it Nuclear? Pokemon Nuclear? Pokemon
Uranium?
Uranium? Yeah, something like that.
True.
Yeah, it was a fan release game and actually did much better than any of the titles that they were releasing. And Nintendo was like, yeah, no, cease and desist.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if they. I don't think people were buying it either. It was like so that they didn't like break any laws. They basically just released it on the internet for free.
Yeah.
But because of reasons, Nintendo was like, "Yeah, nah.
I don't think we're going to be doing that.
Yeah, can't
Yeah.
make them look bad.
So
Can't
they-
make them look bad."
Yeah. So really, they're just consolidating their IP.
Yeah.
And
It's-
obviously their workforce.
The implication that I got from that is they are no longer willing to take chances. They're just going to keep flogging their cash cow well after it dies.
Yeah, that's the next thing I think we should talk about is like they've obviously had something that works. So now they're going to pretty much flood the market with that kind of, I guess, IP related content or gaming.
Is that to say that they're going to go down the same the same road as like Games Workshop and release another trash tier game with the Warhammer label every year or so? And then
That's
every
the
now
other
and
one I
again
was worried
talk
about,
when it's worth effort.
Yeah.
Actually, it more kind of aligns with what I was thinking when Disney bought fucking Star Wars
Yeah.
off George Lucas. I'm like, "Eee." But yeah. Sorry, Niche. I interrupted.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking as well. Like they're definitely gonna flog this cash cow that is the Fallout universe, which kind of sucks because you all know what companies are doing now. They're just trying to appease everyone for the best, I guess, monetary gain at the end of the day.
Paint with the widest brush they possibly can.
Yeah.
Not realizing that you can't please everyone. Going back to what we were talking about in the last dump episode about sometimes in-universe toxicity is good,
Yeah.
especially in games like this. Like, you should be pissed off by other people's presence sometimes because not everyone's a good person.
Yeah.
And on top of that, this is a Fallout game where the illusion of being a good or bad person has always been there. If you want to be the most horrible person ever, then that means you are now content. You're helping that IP thrive because you're a reason for people to not shut their eyes and end up in a grind loop.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it gives you the freedom to make those decisions. And I guess when you're dealing with like storyline content, which you can understand for TV shows and things like that, but I worry about the pandering that comes from companies.
Yeah.
And because they got to hit that inclusion index, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It just sucks. It really does suck. But
You know,
on the plus side, new Fallout stuff, new Bethesda stuff.
well, that's kind of a blessing and a curse in upon itself. Like,
Yeah.
look at Bethesda's track history versus the Fallout series itself. The really good ones that everyone remembers is 1, 2, and New Vegas. And Bethesda had nothing to do with any of those. And the ones that everyone complains about, 3, 4, and 76, are the ones that Bethesda had their hands in.
Would you look at that?
Realistically, if they wanted to, quotes, consolidate and work on their, what do they call it? Blockbuster hits or whatever the presumptuous name they made about it.
Yeah.
Then they should be hiring back, what are they called? Obsidian? The mob that made New Vegas.
Yeah.
That would make them the most money in the shortest time.
Yeah, but they really wouldn't. They don't really want to do that though, because that means that they're handing out their profits to somebody else.
Yeah,
Correct.
that is true. Yeah. So the next para, and it sucks because it says pretty much to double down on these franchises and to invest to build new ones requires us to look across the business to identify opportunities that are best positioned for success. This prioritization of titles and resources means that few teams will be realigned to others and that some of our colleagues will be leaving us. And then it goes into the changes of effect between the 4 studios that are getting pretty much abolished or reabsorbed back into the main Bethesda workforce and development teams.
Yeah.
But it sucks because you know that there's already teams working on problems like the Fallout games, Skyrim, all that stuff. So there's a whole bunch of people in this workforce that are probably just sacked now because they already had somebody else.
Mm.
And tying into what you just said, Flass, new thoughts and new ideas. It's probably something they really need to work on because, like you just pointed out, they're the ones that kind of goofed on those games.
Yeah, that's right. They haven't got the greatest reputation here, yet they're the one holding all the bucks at the end of the day.
Yeah. It
Actually,
what were you
keep
gonna say?
going, dude.
Nah, what were you gonna say?
It's funny you mention all this, right? The new ideas thing. Get this right. One of the developers or slash creators of Fallout, so like Fallout 1 and 2,
Yeah.
the whole premise of the Fallout universe was basically a starship if the world ended.
Yeah.
All the vaults were built with the intent to experiment on people to see what would happen if they were on a starship with each other for an extended period of time, and could we do it? And develop the technologies needed to make a starship, which I thought was wow. Like you've made this entire universe and never really. I mean, they have hinted at it, and it's been tiny, tiny little hints that this universe was supposed to be spacefaring, or were trying to be spacefaring, and botched it hardcore. But
There's even tiny driplets of hints about that in 76 here, in some of the interactions with Modus. He's like, oh yeah, no, there was a big old control satellite, and there was
yeah,
like a force of authority up there, and we have all these spaceborne weapons, and it's a shame I don't have access to them anymore. All I could think was, yeah, fuck yeah, that'd be fun. It is a shame you don't have access.
Yeah.
But my point in saying all that is kind of like contextual, because I was watching a video of a dude, and I can't think who it was. It was just passing through my feed, and I happened to click on it. And this dude was basically saying that there's a lack of sci-fi ideas. Now, this just hyper focuses on sci-fi a little bit,
Yeah.
because we're hitting a point now in history where all of the things that were sci-fi are kind of coming true, but we haven't developed new stories to confront the new things that those technologies bring to us.
Yeah.
And it's basically, in the end, what I'm trying to say is that, like, we need new ideas because we need to look further forward, is essentially what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah.
we in an age where, like, information and imagination are, like, basically capitalized on, it's hard to do. There's so much misdirect and money being passed under the table, and it's like shifting ideas and imaginations in a certain direction, and blah 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 blah, that it's really hard for, like, there's probably IPs out there hidden in books and somebody's script, you know, that they wrote 20 years ago that would absolutely explode, but because some dude around a big table with a cigar and a fucking fat paycheck is like, nah, they're not really interesting right now, mate.
Yeah.
They're basically like, nah, fuck it, it's done. Like,
Yeah. And it's
I see where you're coming from, but I can only halfway agree with the point. I feel like we are still going down that road, but all of the old sci-fi has this really strong prevailing air of, like, technological optimism. Like, everything that we invent is going to make humanity better, and we're going to get stronger and more powerful and less disease and more food. We've hit a point now where all of our projections into the future about what technology is going to bring us is basically enslavement and death. And that's why we don't have the same, humanity
Outlook.
became a Type 1 civilization and went and conquered the stars and whatever kind of sci-fi anymore. It's all, The Matrix or stuff like that, where it's we eventually fuck ourselves hard enough that we have to deal with the consequences of our own hubris and probably descend as a species.
yeah.
Like, we're at a point now, maybe we're just at the end of a technological age and we're about to start a new one, but it very much seems like, at least from a socio-psychological standpoint, that we are living or thinking we're living in a post-peak society. There's nothing more to learn. It's all just about how what we've learned is going to hurt us.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, you go, Nish.
it kind of sucks though, because you don't have that optimism, and you look at like the old school Star Treks, right? And like
Ooh.
the old school Star Trek's technology and everything, like the modern flip phone came from that idea,
Yeah.
which is wild. That's actually wild to think that like somebody thinking progressively in a sci-fi context is the one driving the thoughts and ideas for the way we use technology.
Yeah, and like, I guess it opens. This is what I was saying about ideas and imagination. Is
Yeah.
that like, if as long as we have an idea, somebody can imagine the next step,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of like the chicken versus the egg. Like, what came first, the imagination or the idea, and it perpetuates itself. And
Yeah.
like,
That I completely agree with.
yeah, and it's gotten to a point, like Flass was saying, is that we've got a lot of negativity towards our future. Like, people think we're going to blow ourselves up. People think the technology is going to take over us. There's not much optimism. Like,
Yeah.
you know what's missing out of a lot of science and fantasy, science, sci-fi and fantasy?
What?
It's the combination of the two. Like,
Yeah.
why don't we make something where magic is science or science is magic, and as opposed to like generating mana, we like have nano machines that like absorb energy so we can use and like shoot lightning out of our fingertips and things like this, you know? Or
Yeah.
the Bioshock route actually kind of touched on it with just genetics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true that. That's one of
Mm.
those ones where it comes down to a faith in humanity, I guess, when it comes to the biological side. And Bioshock is a perfect example where in universe they had a lot of faith in themselves, in their technological prowess, all that sort of stuff, which effectively turned out to be hubris because messing about with their genetics ended up degrading their entire society and creating the storyline of Bioshock.
Yeah. Wasn't Bioshock such a good game too?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, it was totally good. Yeah.
Yeah, I did
Even
put a
just as
meme
a-
in the Discord about the whole science is magic, magic is science just then.
Well, you know, it's interesting you bring that up as a point, Lit, because funnily enough, for those who don't know out there in the chat, I'd scrape the bottom of the barrel of the anime world all the time because I kind of like watching trash and seeing what other people's conception of their ideal is and all that sort of stuff. That exact concept, where a culture has basically hit technological peak and then been smacked down to a medieval society, but everyone's carrying nanites. That sort of, there's like the overarching plot line is that there's a big computer keeping everyone in this medieval fantasy state and facilitating magic because that addition to a society would stop it from ever progressing back to the stage that it was that it could kill itself. You know, one person having the power to shoot lightning in another person is enough individual power to stop the collective power from getting too high.
Yeah. Well, what was it? That's like the concept in Dune, right? Where they went back to hand combat because, like, projectile. Well, what was it? The shield was invented. The projectile shield was invented, so it kind of made the reliance to go back to hand combat. And I remember I remember there was a big hoo-ha about it because if you were using a shield, and I think if a projectile was shot at the shield, it caused like a nuclear fusion. So it caused everybody to think, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe we'll just go back to hand combat because it all came to that like common agreement is that we won't destroy ourselves by shooting somebody with a projectile weapon. We'll go back to. I'm probably butchering the law here, but I remember seeing and reading about this, and it's been a long time. But yeah, that was the whole premise of why that whole futuristic universe went back to hand combat.
Which
Which
and see, that's a great idea. Yeah. And it kind of like touching on Warframe, the same kind of a similar thing happened in its universe. Basically, what happened is that they became so technologically advanced, they decided to make a they literally called sentience So they made effectively AI, but it was more than that. Like it could replicate itself and all sorts of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
An unchained AI.
Yeah, an unchained AI. And they sent it to Tau, which is, I think it's, Tau is Proxima Centauri, our closest sun,
Yeah.
to colonize it for us. And whilst this sentient race was over there, it's realized that this high society people that created them was really bad, and they were going to mess this solar system up as well.
Yeah.
So they took it upon themselves to actually go back and try and wipe them out, right? And the thing about the sentience is that they can take over any technology. They can assimilate it. Not only can they replicate, they can assimilate. And so they were using all this high-tech weaponry and trying to like fight back, and it was failing miserably. And it just so happened that the Warframe project, in its like prototype infantile, state was basically thrown out onto the battlefield, and they realized that these battle drones could effectively, with sword steel and normal projectile weapons, just wipe the floor with these sentient creatures. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, and
And-
that, again, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
The technological rock paper scissors.
Yeah.
It's
Sounds like
essentially.
StarCraft, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just wild that like you hit such a point that it doesn't. Actually, I remember a similar thing happening when I used to watch Stargate SG-1.
I remember Stargate.
Yeah. Do you remember the Asgardians?
Yep.
I think
Which is-
so.
They're essentially the
so far
Greys.
up their own technological arse that they can't function anymore.
Yeah. So they're essentially the Greys, right? And they come to the humans and they're like, what the fuck is going on over there? Sorry, there's a gunfight happening over in the distance. Anyway,
Right, mate, keep talking.
so
Also,
they're basically become so advanced, like Flash said, that they're they've come to the humans because of these things called replicants.
Yeah.
And they're essentially what I explained with the sentience. They're replicating and they assimilate.
yeah.
So any damage from any energy weapons, they basically can absorb over enough period of time. And they come to the humans, and their excuse is, oh, you humans are primitive. Maybe your primitive ways have like a better effect on these things than we think. And it
Yeah.
turns out that us throwing bullets out of a tube is way more effective than an energy weapon.
yep. They're
It
so
just works.
far technologically advanced that they're like, okay, projectile weapon. What kind of energy are we going to fire at them? That it doesn't even cross their mind. Like, have you considered a cannonball?
yeah.
Launching one of those out in one of your phasers is sure to hurt.
Yeah, kinetic matter. Who'd have thunk it?
Who would have thought?
Just get one of your starship things and put a big hammer on it.
Yeah,
What a big.
squash them like bug.
And going back to the overarching point, this is very much like it's one of those things like the hero's journey, where it keeps happening over and over again in revised forms throughout our history, to the point where it can keep happening in revised forms in fiction forever and never really be exhausted that much. Like, it's still, that's the main plot line of Warhammer 40k. That's why their world is so grimdark, because they got so technologically advanced that they ended up going to war with their own creations. And as a response to that, ended up like highly prejudiced against technology that might be out of control. They basically turned into the Brotherhood of Steel on steroids, which brought them all the way down to feudal knight level stuff, but wearing stuff that makes power armor look shitty. Like,
Yeah. And that's the thing. Those new ideas are what we kind of need, because, like, to be honest, like, we've all kind of, like, it's all been done.
Yeah, but see, that's the good thing, right?
Yeah.
Is that I remember this happening for metal, right? I listen
Yeah.
to metal music. Around about 98, 97, 98,
Yeah.
everything was exactly the same. Everything.
Mm.
And it was like a Corn offshoot.
Ah,
And
okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
yeah, and basically what happened was Corn sorry, not Corn. Slipknot happened,
Mm.
Yeah.
which took everything from everything that came before them and smashed it into one.
Oh, for
They
sure.
they took thrash, they took rap metal, they took the screamo, they took bits and pieces from everything, put it into a blender, and thank Christ they didn't have sewage at the end. You know?
Well, that's the thing. They did a little bit of trial and testing first. Like through
Yeah.
the Make Feed Kill Repeat album, they had a go at some funk, they had a go at some disco, they had weird rap parts in there. And they worked out which bits would fit where and not, and then started making good music after the fact.
Yeah, yeah, and see that's what I reckon's going to happen. It's reaching that boiling point where there's no new ideas, where somebody,
Yeah.
or a group will come together and they'll smash all these ideas together, and it'll create a new paradigm.
Yeah.
You might be onto something there. In fact, it's kind of related to something that I've been thinking about for a while in terms of where do you actually go from here in terms of like storyline development, gameplay development? How do you keep making money as a AAA firm? My personal bet here
Yeah.
is actually replicating not the bit where it kills you, but the original full dive VR system from Sword Art Online, which after the main plot line and all the nonsense that goes on there, I'll spare you the details. The actual engine itself is distributed as a raw thing, where you basically you log in and you're full dived into the Matrix loading screen. There's literally nothing there. But then boiling that idea down to, okay, well, now I'm going to set it up so hand gestures and vocal commands and whatever allow me to basically play Creator God with a really core base engine, and everything else is up to me.
Yeah.
I don't need skills as a game dev. I don't need coding skills. I don't even need like artwork so much. Like I don't need any skills. I'm saying regular Jackoff could put on his Rift S or whatever it is and start developing his own game from scratch. Think like a full dive Minecraft. It is a game that you decide for it to be. I would pay $100 or more for a game that's an infinite number of games.
Yeah. That would be pretty fucking awesome, to be honest.
Well, I think that's what made Gary's mod so popular. Is that
oh, yeah, true.
it turned the Half-Life engine into a sandbox, and
Yeah.
Machinima, and not the company, the actual act of
Right.
Machinima,
Mm.
became a thing as a result of, like, oh god, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Skibidi Toilet is
I know someone
quite
in the
literally,
chat would be triggered by that one.
yeah, is just that. It, like, give it all the shit you want, and a lot of it is fucking absolute nonsense. There's something in it, you know, like there's a depth to it, and
It's completely unrestrained by the normal conventions of media because he knows it's a shitpost in advance.
pretty much, yeah.
Do
And
whatever you
like,
want now.
yeah, I remember a dude. His name, it was spelt funny too, and it was one word. It was Daz Bullshit,
That's bullshit.
and and he used to make those Gmod machinimas,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think what the show was called
Yeah.
that he made out of it, and it was essentially just like, you remember Fast Forward and Full Frontal, those
Yeah, I remember
skit
those.
types shows. That's essentially what it was. It was just a bunch of like mini
Comedy
skits
mini skits.
stapled together and ever repeating through the episode to make like this effectively a shit post. But it was really good and really well animated, and like heaps of techniques grew from it. I remember learning how to make a ragdoll run from rigging that this guy basically made in Gmod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Providing the engine, people like that's the thing. Ideas, people will create new things and ideas if you just give them the platform.
Yeah. Yeah,
To
absolutely.
wind back that idea to an actual business model, develop the engine, make it as clean as a fucking whistle to the point
Mhm.
where like just get like a small some third world country and give every single person in there a Rift S or whatever the current technology is and go just try and break it, please.
Yeah.
Because the only thing this thing needs to do is I never want to find the walls and make sure it's not buggy.
Mm,
The
mm.
only other thing you need to do to turn it into a sound business model is go, if you want your game hosted publicly, you can hire server space from us. And depending on how fat the game is that you've made, is how much we're going to charge you for it. They'll get their, out the door sale immediately for people that never want to connect to the internet and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then they'll keep getting their legacy bucks too, because if someone accidentally creates the new Minecraft, they're getting a cut out of it because of the server hosting.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel exploitative in any part of that chain because we're just providing you services based on the service that we provided you. Not we're going to parasitize you with freemium shit to get your money whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Mm, mm. And I think it kind of goes back to, like, all of this kind of culminates, the whole ideas that we're talking about, and like the manipulative malice that companies hold and all that stuff kind of winds back to remember the book and the movie Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually read the book.
Yeah.
A lot better than the movie.
Yeah, the book is
God,
awesome.
God forbid. And one of the things that I love about Ready Player One is that there was one guy who developed this super expansive, self-expanding world that couldn't be beholden to a company. It was up to gamers to find the treasure, the Easter eggs hidden in the games, to actually get to the end, and then they would own the company. Fucking model. Like,
It's genius, yeah.
yeah, if you're passionate about it, if you want to find it, you'll get it. And you not only, like, I think it's the second place prize of getting the possible billions, if not trillions of dollars that would come from a game engine experience like that.
Yeah.
Or a world, I guess you could say. The first place is like, I'm in control of this world now, and like, I have the opportunity to expand upon a genius's work. I can now stand on the shoulders of a giant, like, yeah.
Make you feel like a true scientist.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's about the soundest shit I could ever conceive of. More sound than anything that I could conceive of. That's the best way to go about it. Make it so, king of the company is actually king of the inside of the company too. If you want to have a reign of terror, that's fine, but that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess that ties back into the base concept of, like, developers are one thing, but the gamers are the product, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, with the games, just like that, you give gamers a clean slate engine to do whatever they want with, they'll make something cool.
Oh, yeah.
Same with developers.
Look at the diversity that's come out of the Minecraft modding community. Everything from the most peaceful, calm, flowery experiences to you can't turn a corner without the modern Doom theme starting to play because everything's so high tension all the time. They've
Yeah.
done mystery, they've done adventure, they've done rom-coms, they've done everything in the same engine.
Yeah.
Because all it did was go, here goes some grass, go punch a tree, the rest is up to you.
It was
We
same
have
with
we have no presumptions about what you're meant to do with it, just fucking go do something.
and it was think about all the games that were built off the Half-Life engine.
Yeah.
Through that.
Yeah, same kind of deal. So many exist out there that are all built off that exact engine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. So I think, like, tying it back into the whole Microsoft dropping those minor studios, even though we read out that little bit of excerpt from the email that Matt Booty put out, they also then went and claimed that Xbox as a brand needed to develop smaller games that win more awards.
See, they've already made the mistake. They've
Yeah.
already made the mistake. They're like, we need to tie into market. Because I can see where this perspective's coming from. Take Noida for example, right?
Yeah.
Here's
They
this
want those
tiny
Noida.
little title that's made bank, and that's bottom line. They're like, we need to make games that make money, and it's like, come on, you're missing the point. You're
Yeah.
missing the absolute basic point of why these games made money in the first place.
Yeah.
They're
It's
yeah.
wild, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it came down to like Hi-Fi Rush, which was what Tango Games. I would say probably Microsoft's most successful out of that bunch, even after they like shit the bed on Redfall. But what was it? The game manager of like Tango's game studio, which was one of the ones that was shut down, put out a tweet after all the news and email and everything came out about that, and it was just a picture of all the awards that game actually won.
Yeah.
That sends a
it's-
pretty strong message.
And yeah, and it's like, okay, well, is it really about the awards or is it just about money?
Mm.
And
Well,
like,
exactly. You know,
I'm
both
not
hit the nail
familiar
on
with
the
I'm not familiar with a Hi-Fi Rush game, right? But like, if it let's call it the modern model. If the modern model doesn't have skins transactions or microtransactions for continued revenue growth, is it something that you would really prioritize over thinking as Microsoft? Isn't that something you'd prioritize over development of like single standalone good quality games? 100% if you're a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, I think this is why Microsoft, right? This is why Halo took such a nosedive.
Yeah.
And it all kind of culminates. Halo's a perfect example. Halo should end, as every story should.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You should pick an ending and go with it. If it happens to be that could be something added on later to the ending, maybe you got one or two more games that you can put out. But you should just think of an ending where you wanted it to end up and go towards it. Make the most epic, ridiculous story-driven chaos that you could possibly make, you know? Like,
Ooh.
Master Chief is one of the... Dude, if him and Doom Guy aren't having beers at the end of their campaigns, I'm running shitting, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like it's so ridiculous. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that they're whacking this cash cow trying to make money come out of it when they need to feed the cash cow first. They need to feed it nourishment and love and care. If they're not feeding it with love and care, doesn't matter how many times you beat it with a stick, the cunt's going to kick you. You know, like...
It's not that hard to provide it either. Pay them appropriately. Don't breathe down their necks too hard. Let people make games. People don't get into game development purely because they think it's going to make them rich. Most of them, by the end of their like educational phase, are all fully aware that they're getting themselves stuck into a heap of shit for the rest of their lives, but they want to make games.
Yeah. It's a
Just
passion.
fucking let them make games.
Yeah.
And it's a good point. Crimson raised it, like Redigit, developer and gamer. That's the guys that make Terraria. And look how successful Terraria was.
100%.
That did really amazing on PC. And then it went to, I think it was console? I'm not 100% sure. It was console or mobile, one of them. Actually, it might have been mobile. And then, again, still really awesome. And it's always growing. It's like, I'm still seeing updates for it.
Yeah, that's crazy, eh?
And that's
Terraria's
it.
become like a cultural idiom at this stage. You can't get away from Terraria references if you're into memes. You might have never seen the game, you might have never played it, but you would have heard some of the music, you would have seen some of the references to the items and whatever that are in there, because it's become a staple in our gamer society now.
Yeah. And it's so simple. It is a really good engine, very well made, and kind of gives anyone playing it the freedom to do what they want.
Absolutely. Now, in the case of like single player railroaded games,
Yeah, the whole linear game storytelling.
Yeah, linear gameplay, yeah. Absolutely do it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal.
Yeah, those were good.
Mhm.
It's because they took a world and they expanded upon it.
Yeah.
They didn't change the world, they just expanded on it. And not forgetting the bones,
Yeah.
really.
Mm.
And a lot of single player, especially linear ones, are story driven and should be story driven because, let's face it, like, how many times can you shoot at someone before you're like, oh, I'm just playing COD again?
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
It's
there's a
just
whole. They're trying to make easy money out of stuff that's been done a million times, but just add a couple of new things to it. It's not how you do it. Like,
Mm.
Yeah. It's to be honest, like I can't remember the last time I've played like a linear pathing game like that. Like outside of Fallout,
yeah.
I don't think I've played one in such a long time.
Mm.
And there is one I am looking forward to that's coming out and that
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about now, which
Yeah.
is the Space Marine 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw all the game shorts and trailers for that, which honestly I think looks kind of fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But with the whole hoo-ha that's going on with Games Workshop at the moment,
Mm.
yeah, we'll see how that pans out. That's a case of pandering right there, and that's because, like, from what I've read, that one's come back from the whole Amazon show deal.
Yeah.
So that's a whole thing we should dump on another time.
Oh, for sure.
But
Games Workshop deserves a couple of dumps.
a couple of dumps, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But dumping on Microsoft today, definitely a thing. And man, like I can't wait until some of these people that have been laid off create an incredible game.
Yeah. And they really should, like, not be they shouldn't be scared to put a risk into it. I remember when I'm going to use Warframe again as an example.
Yeah.
Warframe in its conception, they had 250 people. Now that might seem like a number,
Yeah.
but in circumstances of big game studios, it's fuck all.
Yeah.
Like, and these guys were going to everyone with the Warframe concept, and they were basically saying, "Nah, we're not buying it. Sci-fi is not going to make it." And so, yeah, dude, there's a documentary, 2-part documentary. You should watch it, man. It's excellent. And basically, what they did was they got struck down so many times. They were like, you know what? We're just going to throw our money at it, and we're going to release it free to play and see how we go. And it's one of the biggest. Digital Extremes is an old company, like
Yeah.
like the conception days of like the first games you used to play on a PC, and but they shrank to a point where they were nearly gone, and they threw all their marbles at this one project that nobody believed in, and they made a fucking amazing game and experience. I'll say it's an experience too for anyone who knows what the Second Dream is. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's wild. There should be more. The game developers that get laid off and everything should take that gamble. Should make a game that breaks all the molds and focus on passion rather than a percentage. Like.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Make the game that you actually want to make. Get all your friends together that have also just been fired and also want to make said game. Don't worry about shit like traditional crowdsourcing and whatever, because that just comes off as petty these days. Just go on Twitter or wherever, go on YouTube, tell us about your game. Give us a decent description of it. people like myself and Lit and Niche that have money and are real pissed off with the community of game development at the moment will shower you in shekels.
All
Get
the
so much
shekels.
funding for your game just by going, this is the conception that we've got, this is what we want to do with it. We are unchained by any sort of corporate influence, but we need money to finish it.
Yeah.
You'll have a cut out of every one of my pays until it's done, provided you're actually working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up for this one's dump. I think Microsoft's definitely been dumped on today.
Yeah, they're covered in dump and I'm completely empty.
Yeah, I'm cooked. But it was a good chat, guys. It's always good. And
For sure.
if
Always a
those go on watching it, feel free to drop a comment down below or join us in the next one where we talk about it. We might do a live one here and there. But until next time, guys, take it easy, look after yourself, and peace.
Thanks for coming. Don't mind the smell.
Peace.
Balls hanging low while I pop a bottle off of your chain swinging, clang clang, and it costs a lot.